everyone, this is Dr. Liz, and you're listening to Include with Dr. Liz. This show is about everyone, all people, including you. It's about people and their diverse lived experience in this world. I chat with guests to get to know them, their identities, and their inclusion needs, so we all have an opportunity to understand how best to include them, so together we can create a world where everyone thrives. Anita is a beach-loving, tiramisu-hating, LGBTQI+ identifying, proud parent and erotic pop artist. Described by some as a fearless whirlwind superwoman, Anita has recreated herself and aspires to be the next Andy Warhol. Welcome.
Oh, it's lovely being here with you, Liz. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for joining me, Anita. Now, have you always been an erotic pop artist?
No, that's probably been a 20-year journey just going over. But before that, I would always paint and draw and illustrate, and I was very crafty when I was in school. But I grew up in a cult, so we were not allowed, my creative passions were never fostered. So it's not until I actually left that cult and ran away from it and I became an artist and I was able to be fully expressed.
You just dropped a bomb.
Yes.
Okay, can't ignore it. You were raised in a cult. Can you share something about that with us?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in a doomsday cult, which predicted that the end of the world was coming. It was us against them. And when Armageddon came, everybody else would be wiped out and we would take over the earth. So during that upbringing, there was a lot of, it was a fear-based environment, obviously. And I grew up in a lot of judgment, fear, shame, and I was never really allowed to be who I really was because our goal in the cult, what we were raised to do, was to recruit people in and to save them for the end of the world. So I lived a very, very repressed life and I married into that. I had a couple of daughters into that. I was only very young when I married. So I was 19. I met my husband when I was 17, married by 19, first baby by 20, second baby by 21. And then in my mid-20s, and I lived in a domestic violence relationship as well, which was shoved under the carpet because that was something the cult didn't want to deal with. That didn't exist. And I had a bit of a breakdown when I was in my mid-20s. I was a young mother. I was hating my life. I felt there was something more and I wanted to explore the outside world. And I ended up picking up my daughters in the middle of the night and running away to a new life.
Okay, well, I imagine that was pretty difficult. That wasn't like on a whim.
No.
Tell me what it's like to suddenly find yourself in a completely different world, all alone, not knowing what to do next.
It was scary as hell because we'd always been taught that the outside world was evil and that anybody out there was out to get you. It was a disaster zone. So you couldn't trust anybody and that world was going to die anyway. So why would you want anything to do with that? You don't want to die. So when I left, there was this fear of leaving what I knew and also this fear of going into what I didn't know. And I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any family on the outside. And when you leave the cult, you are excommunicated. You are treated as dead. So you end up going into this world with nobody on your own, no support. So, yeah, it was scary as fuck. Excuse my language, but it was.
So where did you go? How did you know where to go? All of that.
Yeah. Look, it happened really, really quickly. And it was after a moment when my husband had tried to strangle me in front of my young daughter. And some sort of light bulb went on in me at that time because I was already so depressed and so unhappy and starting to question things that it was like something said to me, Anita, get out. And so what I did is within a week, I actually looked around at real estate. So I looked for a rental and just said to them, look, I'm in a domestic violence situation. I need to get out really quick. I need a place. And it just seemed to fall into place that these people all helped me. A removalist came. I said to him, look, I'm running away. I can't, you can't turn up here when my husband's home. You need to come in the morning after he's left for work. Nothing's packed. We'll be throwing it into the truck and we will be going. And so honestly, when I think back on it, it's like I had an angel guiding me because I didn't really know what to do. There was these voices saying, do this, do that, go here, go there. And I just seemed to be guided into a place of my own, away from the situation. And I had a chance to breathe and just start my new journey, find out who I was and what I wanted to do.
You have given me goosebumps on goosebumps. Like I've even got goosebumps on goosebumps.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for those people for hearing your need and just, I don't know, supporting and helping in that process. I mean, a stranger, and they helped you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that's right.
okay. Oh, right. Well, let's go like
So where do you go with that?
I feel like, yeah, I get tears in my eyes and then I don't know where to go from there. I lose my track of mind. So I want to go back a little bit. And you did complete a survey for me and there was a list of identities, but you only ticked 2. What were they?
I identify as female, queer, I'm pansexual. So I'm in the LGBTQ community for
Okay.
sure.
But even just you sharing those stories with me now, I mean, I would say you were part of a religious minority that really has shaped who you are today. Perhaps not necessarily initially in the positive, but I bet you've made a positive out of it, which we'll learn about today. Um, but also a domestic violence survivor as well. So kudos to you for courage, bravery, strength, and everything it would have taken to get through that. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you. And I hope it's a guiding light and something that empowers other people that are in similar situations that they can get out and they can change it.
Mm. Once you were out and you just got some breathing space, let's go into the self-definition shortly. But did you did you get access to other support services that are out there? Did you become more aware of resources that were available to you as a survivor of abuse?
Not for a long time. I think it took me a long time when I was out to actually really trust and find where I could go and who I could communicate with to get resources. So I really was on my own for a long time. I think I was really healing. And this is where my art came into it because I started to reconnect with myself and express myself through my art. And then that became a guiding light, which led me to other things. So the resources, especially in the queer community or the domestic violence resources, I didn't really know where they were or was able to trust in them until some years down the track. But they're there. There's a multitude of them there, which is fabulous.
All right, so they're there and available. If you were to give any advice to people that were providing those resources to make sure that they could connect with the people that need them most, thinking back to your time, what could they have maybe done differently?
If I was to do it again and I knew where the resources were, the first thing I would do was get in with the people that see you, understand you, hear you, because when you feel all alone and you're confused and you're battling demons from whatever that past was, you need community and you need understanding and especially need love and support. So the biggest thing for me would to not try and prove myself to people that don't see or hear you, get in with the community that does. And then the resources that are within that to help you heal or to guide you onto your next part of the journey are so powerful and you'll get there quicker.
Yeah, well, no, I want to flip that now because I want to make sure that we're educating people that are providing those resources, that are those existing communities. How can they make themselves more visible or more trustworthy to those that need them in those moments of crisis?
That's a good question because I was of the era where there was no social media. So was a lot harder to find the resources. Whereas now I think that these communities do a really good job they're on the socials and the digital space is huge. So it's easy to Google and find. So I think that a lot of them are doing a really, really good job. I think community, I mean, it's good to be in the digital space, but get out in the real world, do community things, have events, make themselves more known for other people to find them and get involved in person, not just behind a screen.
Okay, good tips. All right, now Let's have a look at some of your identity searching processes. You came from a really isolated environment and upbringing. How does one explore their sexuality and identity outside of that? I can't imagine it was smooth sailing for you.
That was a really long journey, I have to say. So, being sexually repressed, and homophobia was so frowned upon. That was evil. Anybody that had any tendencies outside of what the Bible, they thought the Bible interpreted was evil, was excommunicated. And yeah, the judgment was just horrific. So, to know that you are not of the normal, I mean, what's normal anyway, but to know that you don't fit into the box that they prescribe, and to try and find out where you fit in is a long journey when you've had that fear and judgment and shame behind it. So for me, discovering it, and again, to identify as queer and actually come out and say that, it wasn't until 20 years into my journey. It took that long through my art and sexually expressing myself through my art, getting into these different communities, meeting different people, seeing how they were empowered and self-expressed authentically, which empowered me, doing a lot of deep diving and soul work. So it is a journey, and I didn't even honestly recognize it initially. I just knew that I wasn't like everybody else, but I didn't know what it was. So I would see bits of myself and go, oh, yeah, like I don't even understand what this is, but it became apparent to me along the journey. So I think that constant self-discovery, self-development is really powerful in you tapping into the truth of who you really are.
Now, you tapped on sort of the visibility, seeing others like you or similar to you helped you find yourself, because you went, oh, I think I recognize myself in that.
Yeah.
So tell me about the importance of representation.
Yeah, look, I notice when I do, for instance, when I exhibit my art, and a lot of the places that I do it are within the LGBTQ spaces, kink spaces, uh, very inclusive spaces. And when I'm with that community and I'm exhibiting there, it's just so amazing to see everybody just fully being who they are with no judgment. And it really is a beautiful thing. The energy and the vibration in those spaces is way up there. It's so good. And yet, when I've been in spaces where that is not as accepted, it's amazing the reaction. It's like us against them. You're a freak. So, look, it is to have that community around you that are just being themselves, which empowers you to be yourself. I just it's so valuable, so valuable. And I just have to give an experience because I just thought of it actually. I exhibited at Mardi Gras Fair Day a couple of years back, and by this time I'm fully out. I'm having a ball. I'm immersing myself. It was so much fun. Just watching people alive and being themselves is such a beautiful thing. Anyway, this young man came into my stall, and he was very, very shy, and he was wearing his like fishnet stockings. And I just said to him, "You look amazing. You are rocking those. Go, you good thing." And his eyes just lit up and his face lit up. And he said to me, "Thank you so much." He said, "I hopped onto the bus like this." He said, "I was ashamed that people were going to judge me. I was shy. I was scared." He said, "Thank you so much. I feel amazing. I'm so proud to be wearing this." So it's the tiniest little things that can empower somebody to be really proud of who they are unapologetically. And that's the type of thing that I want to embrace and have for everybody.
How many times are you going to give me goosebumps in 130 minutes? Let's see if we can make it a world record. Because you just made it safe for that guy to express himself. And there is so much beauty in feeling safe. That's what you're saying about being in those spaces of inclusion with the queer community when you're exhibiting. The energy you're feeling is people feeling safe and authentic. It's so magical. And our truest and best selves come out when we're being those people. So
that's right. And that's why it's great that we can be seen and heard in our spaces, but we also want to be seen and heard everywhere. We want to feel like that everywhere,
And so
not
you
just
did my
us
segue.
against them.
Oh, you did my segue, because we should all feel that safe and that authentic outside in the organization, in what the real world. It's a terrible way to say it, but out in the diverse community, not just within our own identified communities. Knowing what it feels like to be in that safe space, what is it from those environments that you could suggest could be translated into an organization so that employees can feel that safe and authentic?
I've always worked in spaces where I have found that the majority of them have been inclusive, which has been really lovely, because I know that a lot of spaces aren't like that.
Mm.
Look, I think inclusive in the activities that you have within that workspace, being respectful of people and how they want to be addressed or identified, and not dismissing them. Celebrating the way that they express themselves. Like, you're not the butt of the office jokes because you wear something out there, or your mannerisms are funny, or, just as a whole, inclusive language, acceptance, language that accepts others for who they really are, instead of judging them.
They
Yeah.
often call those the microaggressions, right? It's not always these obvious exclusionary actions. It's sometimes those little things that just are what makes it clear that you're not accepted.
Like, an example that I have is, I have worked in a workplace where we had somebody transitioning. And I just ask, like, if you're not sure, you hear everybody else talking, what is that person, he, she, they, we don't know, and there's all this talk going around the office. Just go up to that person, just say, hey, how would you like me to address you? Like, be respectful, just ask, and they'll tell you. And when they tell you, do that. Because if then you continue to speak to them in a way that they don't identify or feel comfortable, you're not respecting that person. So it's those little things, I think, that make a difference as well.
And mean so much. I mean, if someone got married and changed their last name, we would all go, okay, you now have a new last name. It should be exactly the same for anyone else that might change their first name or their pronouns.
Yeah, exactly.
So you use the term pansexual, and not everyone knows what that means. So can you help people understand what it means for you?
So, me, again, identifying that I was pansexual, that took me a long time to actually realize that was. And look, some people don't like labels. Some people, as labels, it's easy for them to work out where they sit in the spectrum. So whatever suits is great, whatever works for you. But for me, it was really good, because I went for quite a few years not understanding my sexuality and my preferences, and, oh God, where do I fit in here? What is going on? And then that just helped me define it. So what I worked out along the way is that, for me, pansexual is you're attracted to people and the gender identity does not matter at all. And that was what I found on the journey is, I'm attracted to the person. I'm attracted to their soul, to their heart. Whatever this meets gender identity or whatever is going on the outside, it's irrelevant to me, because it's that person's soul I identify with. So I'm not specifically, I'm not heterosexual. I'm not just attracted to men. I'm just attracted to people.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and they can be who they want to be.
Thank you for sharing that for people, because it's,
Yeah.
people get afraid to ask. So that's why we've got the podcast, right? So we can make it
Yeah.
okay to ask those questions. And I've heard more than once that asking these questions is not about interrogation and just being curious for curious sake. It's more to make sure that we're asking to understand, so that we can actually include you better.
Yeah, and I love that. Like I was saying with that experience before, when I asked the transitioning person, it's good because it makes them feel seen, and then you understand and you can help and support them and love them the way they want to be loved.
Have you ever felt disrespected for your identity?
Yes.
Oh no, you
Absolutely.
said that with such conviction. Does that mean you've got an example you can share with people so they can understand what it looks like and feels like?
Yeah, look, I've been in spaces where it just in the language, oh, what are you, gay, are you lesbian? And it's the tone of the voice and the judgment that comes through with that. So what are you, things like that. It's so simple, but it's so damaging when people converse in that way. I mean, if you're curious and you want to know about something, just ask. You can do that respectfully. But when it's a derogatory comment coming at you. So look, I've been in spaces and it's never been in a queer space. I must say, it'll be in, say, it might be a family religious space where they have no understanding or they have judgments on who you are, or it just could be anywhere that is not inclusive. That again, and I think a lot of it too comes from fear, because what they don't know, they're scared of, and so they're making assumptions and judgments on who you really are.
Being so clear with who you are can only be a really good place to be as a parent, because you're just really demonstrating to your own children as they're growing up that it's okay to be whoever you are. So how has that manifested with your children?
Yeah, exactly that way. And I am so grateful that my guardian angel tapped me on the shoulder and said, get out of the cult, because it means my children didn't grow up in that, and they didn't grow up the way that I did. And I've got 3 children, 2 older daughters, and I've got a son who's 18. And they can be whoever the fuck they want to be. There's no judgment. They talk to me about everything. They're confident and they're happy to explore. Like, there's no fear, shame, or judgment on that behalf. And so I think my journey, if anything, has been a really good example for my children, and it will be for their children when they have children.
Yeah. Such a gift that you've given them. If we can ourselves turn our trauma into something positive, and then it becomes a gift for others rather than passing that trauma on, it's a beautiful thing to see.
Because I hear a lot of people, and especially the cult that I was in, people saying they're still in victimhood. Oh, I grew up that way. That was shit. Like, ruined my life. I am actually so grateful I grew up that way, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here where I am now. I wouldn't be the person I am now. So everything that I went through, the domestic violence, you name it, it has been a gift, really. I wouldn't change it. If somebody said, could you go back and change it? No, because right where I am sitting now, with my art, with my family, with my dreams, with the people that I have in my life, it's magnificent. And it's only because of where I've been that's created that journey.
So empowering. All right. Now, I want to ask about your art. And you said before it played a role in your healing. So tell me about that.
What happened initially when I left is, because I was always arty and I didn't really get to express it a lot. Our life was spent knocking on doors and trying to convert people. So when I left, I had all this free time, and I was walking through a shop one day and I got this overwhelming feeling. It was an arts and crafts shop, to just buy a whole heap of paint, some canvas. And so I filled this trolley. I bought every single color, all these brushes, and I went home and I sat on the floor and I started painting. And what happened is I immediately started to gravitate to the sexuality, self-expression. And as I painted these beautiful images, it might be a beautiful image of a woman's body that was expressing herself, or whatever it was, I would see something and it would light me up, and I'd think, I have to paint that. And so I would start experimenting. And as I was doing it, it would heal me. So it would teach me a lot about myself, but I was also getting out onto the canvas all this trauma and pain that I was never able to speak about or express. And so initially it was therapy. And then what happened is it became this thing, as I became empowered, that it spoke to other people and empowered them. So it's been wonderful to watch that part of my journey, from healing to discovering myself, and to then being a beacon of light for other people. Not only is it, it's making bedrooms, boardrooms, or wherever look really super sexy, but it just touches people's hearts, and it allows them to just be who they want to be. It lights them up as well.
So I think I saw on social media that you're doing an art class so people can go and experiment with erotic art. Is that right?
That is right. And believe it or not, this is the first of its kind, and it's going to be very rare because I'm so busy at the moment with my commissions and organising exhibitions and so forth. But I've had so many of the people that follow me over the years say, please, can you do some art classes? And I just had again this divine download. Anita, get on top of like the penthouse over the ocean, because I live on the ocean. It's beautiful and so inspiring. Get a penthouse, get on the rooftop, get a whole heap of people, and let's just go crazy. And I just felt lit up. So what I did is I booked a whole week in this penthouse, and I've got these exclusive classes. They're all different. Like one's a drag class, one's a kink class, and it's no experience needed. So we're not going to be super serious here. We are just going to get a canvas out. We're going to have fun, and I'm going to help people tap into what's inside of them that they want to get out and express, like I did when I started. After that, I'm actually off to the USA. So
Can you come and visit me in Colorado?
yes, I will. I would love to.
Yes, I'm jealous that I'm now in the States and I can't come to your class in March because that is all my sorts of fun. So make sure you let me know when you're here in the US.
How about I bring a class to Colorado? Let's talk about it.
100%. I think it'll go down really well. Did you actually know that How to Build a Sex Room is filmed here in Denver?
You're joking. I watched that series and I'm like, I have to get there and put my art in these sex rooms, and I have to build a sex room. That show is phenomenal.
We should track down the woman that hosts that show.
I would love to, because it did cross my mind when I was watching it. I need to talk to this lady.
But here's the serendipity of us talking today. So people want to get in contact with you, or they want to look at your art, even commission some of your art. How do they do that?
The best place is to actually go to my website, which is Anita Nevar, my name, ANITANEVAR.com, and just have a peruse around. It's got everything on there, from my gallery to the classes to commissions. So contact me through that and let's chat. I'd love to get in touch with whoever's interested.
Well, we'll definitely put the links in the description of the podcast as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today, Anita. I think I've made a new friend.
You have. We'll be friends for life.
You're on. Thanks again.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.